from. We're going to do some business funding Q&A, and also we want to cover a couple of help y'all avoid some common pitfalls that a lot of business owners, traps that people don't know about that they run into as they go through their funding. Right? These are things that I speak to my clients all the time and come up very often in in different consultations. So these are going to be some of the ways that you're able to just outright sometimes turn a denial into an approval, or two even 10x the approvals that you're currently getting, right? So let's get into it. And as you check in, go ahead, definitely share this out. If you're a small business owner or an investor, entrepreneur, if you have friends that are investors or entrepreneurs and you're looking for more capital, or if you recently got denied, and this is even with and without bad credit. I'm helping, I've had this conversation come up. I've recently had a client who had a 780 FICO score, and we went for some funding. We got them only about 15,000. The other banks were getting them denied because they couldn't verify his identity, right? So we're going to be talking about these different things that can help you turn those denials into approvals. This is, and some of this stuff has nothing to do with whether or not you have good or bad credit. Sometimes the lender just needs access to your credit report, period, right? So here's some common mistakes that we as entrepreneurs, investors make when we're going for funding, right? This is whether or not this is whether or not, regardless of where you are. Okay. So, one of the first mistakes that a lot of entrepreneurs, and this is something that I used to believe as well, is a lot of entrepreneurs stop. What's going on, Roblox? A lot of entrepreneurs will stop or prevent themselves from going for any kind of funding because they believe that you have to have an LLC to get funding. I'm telling y'all now, live and in charge, that is absolutely not true. I've actually gotten some of my clients $50,000 in zero interest funding solely because, I mean, as a sole prop, right? A sole prop is what's going on, Bastion? Let me know where you're tapping in from. So there's this idea that you have to have a fully registered LLC to begin your funding journey, right? Now, that's not fully true. The way the economy is set up, they want you to be a producer, not just a consumer. That's why employees get taxed so much. Okay. So you can actually go for funding even as a sole prop. So, with a sole prop, what that means is this is a business, typically a side hustle that you started only using your social security number, right? So you don't have an EIN number yet. You don't have a LLC or S corp registered with the state. You may or may not have a website. Okay, this could be someone who has a Shopify or an Amazon store, or maybe you're an esthetician or barber, or maybe you're just buying and reselling stuff, right? These, if you are doing these type of side hustles and you're generating income, essentially, as long as you have a name for your store or what it is that you're doing, you're a sole proprietor. Okay. And sole proprietors can get access to zero interest business funding. These are business credit cards. I actually work with the client who does real estate. She's a real estate investor and she does fix and flips. She was using her own money to the point of her money got stuck, right? Her money got tied up in all of these projects, and her money got tied up in all of these projects, right? And what happened was she was like, Jamal, you know, all my money is tied up in these different projects. And I'm tired of using up all of my money. I'd rather use the bank's money. So what we did was she had a great credit score. She had a 775. I took her to three banks and we got her $50,000, right? Without an LLC. Now, after we got her the funding, we also did set up her LLC so that it will open up future funding opportunities. That takes me to the second mistake that small business owners and investors make when going for funding. You don't properly register the LLC. Okay. What we want to do is not only make sure we have an EIN, but we want to make sure that our LLC or our corp is registered with the state that we're going to do business in. And we also want to make sure that this is, you also want to make sure that you're in good standing, right? We got to make sure you're in good standing because that's going to be one of the key things that you'll need so that you can open up a merchant account, so you can open up a bank account. Those are like, that's the absolute most basic thing. This also comes up often when I'm speaking to veterans in the game who may have multiple LLCs. Maybe you got an LLC from 10 years ago that you just been sitting on, right? As a shelf corp is sitting there and you want to use it for funding, but you haven't filed any any annual reports on it. You haven't paid any of those previous costs on it. Like I had a customer who has a 12-year-old business. He has a 3-year-old business and a 12-year-old business. And that 12-year-old business, he actually let it lapse. So it's no longer in good standing. It's super easy. Once you pay those fees, once you pay those fees on those older companies, like if you have an old LLC and you want to bring it up to date, all you got to do is pay those back fees. Typically, it's the annual fee. Even even more than that, guess what? There are some states where you don't even have to pay annual fee. Like I believe Delaware, Pennsylvania is another one, like North Dakota. They don't pay annual fees at all. Or they have a very, very low dollar amount. It may be like $50. All right. So you can get access. You're probably sitting on a gold mine right now because you have an old LLC that you just have to pay the fees and bring it into good standing. Why would you want to do this? Because more funding opportunities are going to open up for you when you have an old LLC. Typically, when your LLC is 2 years old or older, you'll be able to access business loans. You'll be able to access government backed programs. You'll be able to access government contracts and government grants that are not typically available for new businesses or startups, right? So if you have an old LLC, bring it up to date, register it properly with the state using a business address, business contact information. I don't recommend using your personal information, right? This is some basic things that when you're going for funding and they're looking up your business, they will ask you questions about these type of things. Why isn't your address a business address? Or they may outright deny you, or they just give you like the third degree about it. You know what I mean? So make sure you do that. Make sure you do that. Another mistake that a lot of small business owners do, and I understand you want to protect your credit, absolutely. But make sure you remove any fraud alerts or credit freezes before you go for funding. Because a lot of banks right now, especially if you're doing online applications, the way fraud has been happening, and we've seen all of these database breaches, the Chase glitch that ran through just back in September. Systems now they're designed to just deny you. They don't even try to call you to verify who you are, right? So if you have a credit freeze, remove that. I would recommend removing it 1 to 3 days, like 24 to 72 hours before you submit any applications. That way, you know the system has actually cycled, has been updated, and that credit freeze is actually gone. This way, if you're submitting any applications online, they could just push right on through. Also, when you remove these credit freezes, it allows you to qualify for pre-approvals. So if you go to the Discover card, the American Express, the Capital One, sometimes Chase when they have it available, all of these pre-approvals, happymoney.com, Truist, all of these different websites, SoFi Bank have pre-approvals. If you have a credit freeze, none of those pre-approvals are going to work. They're automatically going to say that you don't qualify, you're denied, or they don't have, well, not denied, but they don't have any offers that they can show you because they can't get access to your information. Remove the credit freeze, right? And a credit freeze and a fraud alert are different. A credit freeze blocks any hard inquiry. So if a company is trying to look at your credit report, a credit freeze just blocks them. They can't even pull it at all. There, no one calls you, no one communicates and tries to get your information, nothing. It's just blocked and it's just denied. That will turn into unnecessary denials for you. I had a client, we wanted to go with doing the chase, right? He was, no, actually, sorry, Bank, US Bank. We applied with US Bank and they denied him solely because they couldn't verify his identity. That was the only reason, because he had a credit freeze on his credit report. They ran his credit, they hit the freeze, it blocked him from pulling his credit, denial. That was it. Just outright denial. They didn't reach out to him. They didn't send any emails. They didn't try to confirm his identity. Nothing. They just outright denied it. So then we had to remove the credit freeze, call the reconsideration line, and have them run the application again to get the approval for about $18,000. Along with checking, making sure those credit freezes are removed, you want to make sure your fraud alerts are removed. A fraud alert is separate from a credit freeze. The credit freeze, typically, you would do that on the credit bureau website. So you go to transunion.com, equifax.com, experian.com, and just click credit freeze. You typically are going to log in and either put the freeze on or take the freeze off. Typically, the freeze comes off and the system's fully update in 24 hours. I just say wait maybe 72 hours. If you're feeling a little froggy, 48 hours just to confirm that that freeze is completely gone. And you can do it right from the app. It's a push of a button. Super easy. Now with the fraud alert, this is a little different. A fraud alert doesn't actually freeze your credit. All right. What this does is any company that pulls your credit, they actually get a notice that says, hey, before you approve or deny this person, you have to get in contact with them or attempt to get in contact with them to verify that they were the person that actually submitted this application. So typically what happens there is they'll try to call you. They'll either call you, or if you're in the middle of filling out the application online, it'll say, hey, thanks so much. We'll have to get back to you. Or it'll say, hey, more information is required. Call us at this number or upload these documents. Now, the fraud alert makes the application process more of a headache because now you have to put yourself through these extra layers of identity verification. So some banks like Care Credit, they'll make you scan your face. They'll make you scan your face and record yourself on a website saying, this is me applying for this credit card. Other banks like Chase, They will initially deny the application and then call you to verify. And if you don't pick up the phone when they call, then you're denied. Okay. So it adds an extra layer of complexity, extra layer of headache in some instances when you're trying to do these approvals, or if you're trying to use like a credit stacking technique. That's one of the reasons why we just recommend just removing the fraud alert so it reduces unnecessary friction. Now, to remove a fraud alert, that is also pretty simple. You either can call on the phone, they'll verify your identity, and you'll just have the fraud alert removed. They may ask you to like fax in a letter or mail in a letter. I recommend fax because that's faster. Or you can upload the letter, which just is just requesting that you remove the fraud alert through Equifax, Experian, TransUnion.com. Super simple, super easy, right? All of this is to help you get the approvals, because these, if they cannot verify you right now, even if you have stellar credit, you can have amazing credit and they are going to deny you. They'll deny you even faster if you have better credit, because they instantly are thinking that someone's trying to steal your identity. I've had clients with, we've submitted applications with a 775. They had a 775 FICO score. Didn't know they had a fraud alert because they told me it was clear. They told me it was good. It was off. I said, okay, cool. Boom. Denied. Right? Denied. And because of that, instantly denied because of the fraud alert. They couldn't verify who they were. So boom, it was a deny. All we had to do though, right, because I'm working with them, because they're getting coaching throughout the process, I said, don't even worry about it. It's not a big deal. All we have to do is remove the fraud alert. That's going to take, 24 hours or however long. Once we remove the fraud alert, we're going to check our credit report again, make sure that fraud alert is gone, and we'll just resubmit and call the reconsideration line. That's all you got to do. That's all you got to do, right? Another, so those are pretty simple. Another mistake that I see and this is something that everyone does. I've done it at one point. I see this with everybody. You're applying for new credit, or you're trying to submit these applications for more funding when you have high credit card utilization. A high credit card balance will result in in a couple of different things. One, you could just end up getting outright denied. The other thing that can happen is if you get approved, you'll get approved with some minuscule, some itty bitty baby amount. Like Amex is disrespectful. They'll give you a business credit card with $2,000 on it and be like, hey, you were approved. Have a great day. And you're like, oh, I was approved. $2,000 limit. Like, what the hell? To overcome this, what we want to do is, before we submit applications, especially if we're doing a funding spree or we're going for $30,000 or more, is we want to make sure that the balances on our current cards are low, under 20%. If you can do it under 10%, make it under 10% before you submit an application. Now, I'm going to be honest with y'all. This is a true story from my own experience. The highest my utilization was, and I was still able to get approved, was 45%. But here's the thing. At 45%, I only got a $5,000 limit. Once I brought that utilization down and called the reconsideration line, they actually tripled the limit from 5,000 to 15,000. Just because they saw that I brought my utilization down to a better range. I applied at 45%. At the reconsideration point, I was at like 20%. They saw that. They liked that. So they tripled my limit. Okay. Make sure you do that. That's one of the biggest mistakes. Like, because when they see them high balances, they don't want to give you another high limit because they're like, oh, you're just going to max out the card. Keep the balances low before you apply or before you submit your applications. Another thing, sometimes we just understand that we want to rush the process. And so I'll rephrase this. Instead of saying you want to rush the process, even though you don't want to rush the process because it can take time. Credit and funding is something you're always going to be doing in your business. It feels like it could be a one and done because you're like, oh, I just need this 50,000 to get started. Listen, you're always going to be going for funding. Always. Something is going to happen at some point in your business that you need funding or access to credit to keep you up, keep you running, keep you alive. Even if y'all watch Alex Hormozy, right? He tells this story in his book $100 million offers, and I think he's mentioned it on his YouTube before, what happened to him, and basically how having access to capital, access to a $100,000 credit card saved his ass, you know. So at one point, he opened up all of these gyms and he was flying out doing gym turnarounds for people. And what happened was that a couple of the gym owners were assholes and they told all the people he signed. I mean, he signed up probably like, 600 people for these different gyms in totality, right? So some of the gym owners, not all of them, some of them were like, hey, they actually said this to their customers. They said, hey, you know that guy that signed y'all up and filled up the gym and got you here? I want all of y'all to do refunds, refunds and charge-offs back to that account. And then sign up again with us directly for a lower price. So he ended up getting over $100,000 in refunds in a matter of like 3 days. 3 days. 100K. 100K negative. So the only thing he could do at that time, because when you get that many chargebacks, that many refunds in that short period of time, 6 figures, you become instantly high risk. Like gyms were not considered high risk as far as a merchant account, but when that happens to you, it becomes high risk as for for a merchant, right? To get a merchant account. So in order to continue to stay in business, he had one credit card, right? This one credit card had like $100,000 limit on it. That is how he was able to not only maintain the business, but actually get out of that hole that he was in. He was actually able to leverage the $100,000 credit card he got to pay his staff, pay his marketing, pay his ads, continue to fly out, pay for food, pay for everything on this $100,000 credit card, so that his team could go out and then make $200,000 so that he could pay off the credit card and be in profit, right? And this is, like I said, Alex Hormozy. He was flying out making $200,000 a month, and he still ran into a situation where he needed access to credit. Luckily for him, he got the credit when he didn't need it. That goes back to rushing the process, right? What happens is we end up rushing the process because we wait until we need the credit to go get it. I'm going to say one of the biggest mistakes that we make as people is we wait till the last minute. We wait till we're on our bottom dollar. We wait until after we quit our job. We wait until after we used up all our savings to then go for funding. That is not the time we want to go for funding. If you want to switch it up so you don't run into any denials, right? Apply for the funding when you absolutely don't need it. Apply for the funding while you're still employed and you're building your business on the side. Apply for the funding while you still have, 6 to 12 months of savings in your savings account, right? Apply for funding while you still have consistent income coming in. Because some of these banks, when you're going for certain types of funding, whether it's a credit card, a business line of credit, or a loan, they're going to ask for proof of income. Now that you're still a W 2 employee or you still 1099, you can show them that proof of income. Perfect opportunity for you to maximize your funding. If you're working a job or you're a contractor working, contract to contract, keep doing that. That's the perfect time to go for funding. When your credit score is high, when your savings is high, when the cash is flowing freely and abundantly, that's the absolute best time to go for funding. Don't wait until the last minute. That's the one of the biggest mistakes, because now when they ask, well, how much revenue you make, you're going to say, oh, I don't make any revenue. That's a big red flag. It's as red as my shirt. Okay. That's a big red flag to the banks. They don't like to see that. They don't want to see you retired. They don't want to see self employed. They don't want to see anything that may indicate that you don't have consistent cash flow. The best time to apply is when you do not need the money. And that way, because when you submit that application, you're not feeling the stress. You're not feeling the pressure. There's no emotional connection to the approval or denial. And it allows you to take your time with the process. You're not trying to rush it, right? Because it actually moves faster. Here's another part, little secret. Your funding process moves faster when you're applying for it, when you don't need it. When you have all the cash flow, when you have tax, you can show them your tax returns. You can connect to your bank, and your bank is showing $20,000, $50,000 sitting inside of your checking or savings account. That's like those type being in position like that when you're going for funding makes the funding hit quickly. Why? Because they see that you're in position. They see that you don't need the money, right? They see that your credit score is high. You haven't been late. You haven't missed any payments. You don't have any collections or charge offs. Everything is great. That's when it's smooth sailing. That's when it's easiest. That's the best time to go for funding, when everything is perfect, or at least when everything is in good position in that moment, right? So don't rush the process. Apply when you don't need the funding. That's the best time to do it. Okay. On to next thing is that this is kind of piggybacking off of trying to rush the process. I see this a lot. People close their credit cards too soon, or they just close their credit cards for no apparent reason, right? Like I've had multiple clients. I'm working with a client now. Had 5 or 6 credit cards that, now granted, they had low limits, right? But he closed them because he was like, well, why would I want to keep these low limits? I'm gonna just go ahead and close them. And I was like, damn. Yeah, even if you have low limits on these credit cards, you don't have to close them, right? Here's a strategy. This is how you can prevent this, because this is what happens when you close a card. You're lowering one, you're reducing your amount of available credit, which is going to cause your credit utilization or credit usage to go up. We don't want that. We don't want our credit usage or utilization to go up on our credit report. We want to keep that joint as low as possible. So the more credit cards we have with available credit, the lower the utilization, right? So instead of just closing a card because it gave you a low limit, try this strategy. One, ask for a credit limit increase. Try and get every low limit credit card you have to at least $1,000. Once each one is at least 1,000, try and get it to 5,000. Then try to get that card to 10,000. Depending on the card. I know not all of these cards are going to go up to 5,000, right? If you got like a Merrick Bank, if you got First Premier, if you got Open Sky, the most they'll give you might be like $2,000, which is cool. It's still better than 800. It's still better than 500. But get the max that you can from that card. But don't close it yet. Let that report on your credit. All right. Let it show that you have these new higher limits. That's exactly what you want the banks to see. You want them to see that you have high limits. After that, start applying for more prime credit cards that are going to give you $5,000 or more limits. That's like Discover Card, that's Capital One, Chase, Bank of America, your local credit union. Y'all, your local credit union, that will probably be your first high limit credit card. Like no bull. Your credit union will give you $10,000 before any of the major banks. That's a bar right there. If you did not know that, and you're like, damn, all the banks keep giving me low limits, go to your credit union. Open up an account, deposit, $100 into the savings, $100 into the checking, let that sizzle there for like 30 days or something, and then apply for a card. They're going to give you 5 to 10,000. They're going to give you that, right? So go to your credit unions, get your $5 to $10,000 credit cards, then go to your national banks. That's, your Wells, your Truist, your Citizens, your US banks, your PNCs, all of the commercial banks that we know and love, right? Go to them. Have them get you your, $1,000 to $10,000 credit limits, right? Let those hit your report. It's going to take them about 30 days to hit the report. That's why we don't want to be in a rush. Right now, where we are, between the fraud and the recessions and the data breaches, we're not in position to rush this process. It may take 6 to 12 months for you to build out a profile that allows you to get $200 to $300, $200,000 in funding. It may take some time. It's not an overnight situation. But that's the blueprint, right? Get those high limit credit cards to replace the low limit credit cards. Don't close any of your low tier, low quality credit cards until you get the higher tier credit cards to replace the low tier credit cards. So if you got 3 or 4 low tier starter credit cards with low limits, okay, you're going to have to work with those for a couple of months. I would say about 6 months, right? Use them, pay them off, ask for credit limit increases, go to your credit unions. Once you're with your credit union, get anywhere between 5 to get at least 5,000, right? 5 to 20,000. Because we know like Navy Federal, they're good for giving someone $20,000. I had a client who in January was getting denied, literally denied by Navy, right? By April, I got her a $20,000 Navy Federal credit card from helping her improve her profile, right? So it may take some time, but it's doable. It's not hard. Once you get your $5 to $10,000 credit cards from the credit unions and from the national banks, then turn around and close those low tier credit cards. Those low tier credit cards, the Open Skies, the Merrick Banks, the First Premiers, those are only literally to build your credit. Okay? You don't need them for more than a year, but you don't want to close them too early either. Wait until your profile is built out before you close these cards. Because what that's going to do is it's about not just building up the limits that you have, but building up the age, right? Build up that age, build up that age. Right now, banks like to see you having at least 5 years of age. So do not close your credit cards too soon. That's a big mistake that I've run into a lot. Like I see some nice, beautiful profiles, but their credit age is like 8 months, and it's like, damn, we can't. I mean, the most we'll be able to do is get you like 15,000, maybe, because you only have like 10 months of credit. and the banks aren't giving out 100,000, 200,000 to someone who's never had credit before. The banks ain't operating like that right now. It was like that in 2020, 21 during the pandemic, but now, they want to see like 5 years or more of active, consistent use of credit so that you can get those higher profiles, right? Another mistake, and this is going to be the last one to wrap us up tonight, right? As we prepare for tomorrow, we're going to be diving deeper into actual business funding strategies on how you can get funding with and without good credit, because it's possible. You can have great personal credit and still get denied. You can have less than perfect personal credit and still get approved if you have these other things in place. Now, the last thing, this is a big one, especially when we're looking at going for larger loans, right? 50,000, cool. I'm talking about you're looking at 200,000 and above. 500,000 and above. This is big for if you're in the trucking industry, if you're looking to purchase commercial real estate, if you're looking to purchase another company. This is big, right? If you have a current structure, like one of my clients operates a funeral home that does about 2 million a year. We're looking to go for another $1 million in funding, right? We absolutely cannot rush that process because an SBA loan already takes 30, anywhere from, if everything is great, 30 to 45 days to close on. Okay. But when you're going for the larger loans, or you're going for an equipment loan, or you're going for a loan for inventory, or you're going for um, a line of credit, so specifically so that you can handle payroll, and you need 100, 200, 300,000 to handle payroll, have your paperwork. Have your paperwork. If you had, I was about to say a rent roll, not a rent roll. If you if you have to show, sometimes you may have to show your current payroll, like how much it is, how many people you have on it, right? Have that available. They're going to ask for these larger loans, 200, 300, 400, 500 plus. They're going to want to see tax returns, right? If we're going for some of these state programs like the SSBIC or the ECIP, which is Emergency Capital Initiation Program, right? Or the state small business credit initiative. These type of programs allow small business owners with 650s, sometimes a 600, to get a loan. But they want paperwork. They want to see your taxes. They want to see your personal tax returns and your business tax returns. They want to see P&Ls. They want to see bank statements. They want to see all of this so that they can do the math and see how strong your business is. The great thing about these type of programs is when you have your paperwork can help fill in the gaps where your credit profile may not. If your personal credit profile isn't that strong, it's been beat up because, business is business, life is lifing, right? Or if your business credit isn't that great because, again, business is business, life be lifing. Having that paperwork behind you can show that, okay, you're doing good business, you have good margins, you're trending upward, right? They're seeing a profit at the bottom of your profit and loss, or on your taxes. They're seeing profits there. That gives them something to work with, even though your personal credit may not be that great, right? If you have assets, you have paperwork showing that you have assets, things of value that you could put up for collateral. That's going to help. This is how you can turn, this is just a couple of ways of how you can turn approvals. I'm sorry, this is how you can turn denials into approvals. Okay. So look out for these 8 things. Make sure that before your next funding round, you follow these 8 steps before your next funding round. If you're looking for some help with your particular funding journey, your funding strategy, I have several links in the description of the channel. Definitely check those out. Book a consultation with me or shoot me an email. We can go over, talk about your business needs, the type of funding that you're looking for, and let's see if it's a good fit, if I can potentially help you get the funding that you're looking for, right? For everybody that got this through my mass text, I will see y'all tomorrow, 7 p.m. for the Business Funding Masterclass. Everyone have a great evening. Peace.